Hey everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome to Middle-earth Shadow of War. This is going to be a bit of an informal review now that I have completed the game. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers and stuff. Obviously, most of you will know you have to conquer forts and defend forts because it's sort of given away in all the promotional footage, and seeing him like this is not really going to mean too much to anybody. So, my overall impressions are that I actually really love it. In terms of the game itself, the gameplay, the Nemesis system, it's literally all on point, as you would expect, as we all hoped. The fortress attacking and defending gets a bit laborious after a while, much like, you know, the Nemesis system as a whole. It holds up really well, and you do get to almost create your own story, which is, you know, the point of why people enjoy the Nemesis system so much, because, you know, that's one of the, well, that is the main selling point. I think without the Nemesis system, the Middle-earth games would not have been anywhere near as good as they are. And I think that, you know, it's the right setting to have it in, with the orcs in the Lord of the Rings, you know, ethos and lore. You know, so from that side of things, you know, as good as the first one. And I always say to people, and they're thinking, oh, I haven't got Shadow of War. There's a lot of people who tell me they're thinking about getting Shadow of War but not bought it. And I always say, well, did you enjoy Shadow of Mordor? Have you played Shadow of Mordor? And a few people will say, yep, played Shadow of Mordor, really enjoyed it. It started to get really tedious and repetitive after a while. And I feel like saying to them, you know, this is probably a game even for people that haven't played Shadow of Mordor, because you've not already been subjected to the grind, you know, of the Nemesis system. And in fact, there's probably a bit more now, because it's even more imperative to, you know, have those interactions, you know, on a much wider scale. So the maps and everything are really nice and varied. One of the things I really like. Music is Lord of the Ringsy, and yeah, perfectly fine, no particular issues. Some of the tracks in the game I do really enjoy. Other ones are just, well, as you would expect, you know, the filler as you would expect, so nothing too incredible. And graphically, it is a step above the first Shadow of Mordor. Whether there's been that amount of massive improvement or not, I'm not sure. Obviously, new textures have been loaded in. Feels like the same game engine. Everything, you know, feels very similar in terms of, you know, your hardware or you know, how powerful your computer needs to be to play it. You know, you're generally losing about 10 to 12 FPS on average from Shadow of Mordor to Shadow of War, which does indicate that there is at least, well, barring optimization issues, there is at least an improvement there in, you know, textures and the like of the, you know, that's been brought through the game engine. So we do have to talk about microtransactions, and we have to talk about the online mode. Thank you very much, game, for bringing that up. So I'm just going through stuff while we're doing this informal review. So, the marketplace. Okay. Now, this was going to be really controversial for many reasons. Obviously, the whole microtransactions, orcs being in loot boxes. I don't like the idea of the orcs being in the loot boxes, but later on, it becomes a necessity. So, but it becomes a necessity in terms of you spending your own in-game money that you've earned. As you can see up there, I've got 13,000. But, you know, the amount of these crates I've bought is incredible. I think probably bought maybe 50 or so. And the game will hand out the in-game currency pretty readily. And you can get some good stuff from the silver war chest. Just occasionally you end up getting a load of rubbish. And, you know, you end up getting a lot of commons, which end up stacking up in your inventory. But then, and this is the point where I have the issue, you can then destroy them for gear, which is not normally brilliant gear. I don't think I've ever used anything that I've had off destroying an orc for it. But you then go into your inventory, you find that gear. I think it was a cloak, wasn't it? I don't know what level it was, one of these. And then you destroy that and get the in-game currency. So in a roundabout way, you're also paying for the in-game currency through the orcs. Now, that side of things I'm not keen on. That feels very mobile marketplace marketplacey, you know, the fact that you would do that. And the same sort of thing is with the customizable for your characters as well. So we go on, you know, you got training orders which can level them up, give them different abilities. This all feels very mobile gamey as well, and it's not an issue in this game. It doesn't hurt the game, and it doesn't, like, the game's perfectly fine as it is. I've heard quite a few people say it, and I'm inclined to agree that this is the beginning rather than the end. Like, this, what we have here, will not be the norm. It will go above and beyond this, and I think that's where we get the real issue. It will start being more egregious. You know, we don't know before all the backlash Warner Brothers got whether the in-game currency was going to be as generous as it is, because you need it for everything. You need it to upgrade your assault teams, you need it to upgrade your defensive teams, you need it obviously for your orcs. I mean, buying this silver loot crate where you get bits of armor is practically pointless, because obviously you're better off just getting the orcs. And the thing about this, when you buy them from the marketplace, is they come around your level as well. So if you need to outfit a province with, you know, a good amount of orcs that you don't need to dominate because they're already dominated, they're already yours from the crate, then these are all going to be around your level. So that side of things, it keeps you steadily coming back to the marketplace. You know, you steadily get to see, you know, the haunted war chest, which actually looks pretty cool. The Beastmasters, all the artwork and stuff is really nice, really beautiful. Maybe not that one so much, but these other two are pretty sick. So, you know, you're constantly shown this in your face, and you're constantly brought to there because you have to do it. The issue that you then have is it takes you out of naturally getting the orcs from the in-game world. And in fact, you know, you end up, especially towards the end of the game, not even bothering going out in the world, because, as you will probably see if I go on my army page, like, how many in-game orcs are actually there? There's none. They're all mine, and they're basic. Half of these are ones that I've added from the marketplace. Some of them are dead because of the last battle, but let's not worry about that too much. And it does. The thing is, it cuts down on the grind, and that's what they said it was for. You know, the loot boxes were there to cut down on the grind, people with less time. Now, it's still taking me 60 hours using the loot boxes that I can buy with in-game currency. So I don't, you know, it's not egregious at all. I think it's perfectly fine. I'm happy it took me the 60 hours, and I enjoyed 95% of it. So I've got no issue with that at all. Moving forward, if we start getting games that are more egregious than this and haven't got it, because I would say this is almost perfectly balanced, which, like I said, bringing it back to the point of, did they change it after they got the feedback? I think probably yes. I'm being rather cynical there, but I think so. So we'll go on to the online mode, which is, once again, not egregious, works pretty well. And as I mentioned before in a previous video, I had people come up to me and saying, or messaging me on Steam, or talking to me in real life and saying, you know, you've got why'd you buy that game for? You know, it's really bad. They've got all these shady practices, loot boxes. And I was like, well, let's stop with the loot boxes. Let's take that out for a second, because I don't think it's an issue. And it turns out it wasn't an issue. The thing they were saying is, you know, people can come into your game and kill all your guys when you're not there. Okay, well, maybe that was the idea at one point, but once again, it doesn't happen. People can try and take over your fortress. If they succeed, and guess what? They succeed. They've beaten your fortress, but your guys don't die. You know, I'm not putting these guys at risk by having them there in the defense at all. When you do put your guys at risk is when you decide to attack someone else's citadel. And that, to me, makes perfect sense. You're putting your own guys at risk to conquer someone else's. There's risk and reward there, because the stuff you do get from conquering other people's fortresses and doing all the online mode is really good. You get a load of gold, you know, gold-rated chests with really high-level guys in. So, you know, you have to balance up the risk versus the reward, and you choose who you put at risk. So that, to me, is a lot better. Not so much if I'd paid for those orcs that I was then putting at risk, But because I haven't spent any money on it at all, which by the way you don't need to, I haven't felt as though I needed to at any point, because what the game does is, the game only gives you orcs up to your level. You can't recruit orcs that are higher than your level, you can't get orcs in a chest that are higher than your level, so in that way, purely starting the game, putting £15 on and buying a load of really expensive chests does not give you that much of an advantage. Unless you obviously put £15 on, bought some of the special crates at a steady pace, you know, for key particular missions or whatever, then yeah, that would help you. But it doesn't help you any more than basically just going around and collecting a load of in-game currency and, you know, buying 5 crates at once. You're bound to get, I would have thought, at least one legendary. That's how it seems to be, 1 per 5 crates as far as I can see. So, and legendary guys aren't even that good. You know, I put my legendary guys in the fight pit with just the normal epic guys, and they get, you know, beaten all of the time. So, yeah, don't see that to be an issue. Don't see the online mode as an issue. Actually, I've done the online mode a few times and I quite enjoyed it. I think it's quite fun. You can also test out your friends' defences as well, and then obviously you get to see the orcs that they've been interacting with in their game, and you get to go one-on-one with them, or 7 of them versus 1 of you, or whatever it happens to be. So all that stuff I think is really good, and it adds to the game, that side of the online mode. I feel as though it has added me an extra couple hours, a bit more interest in the game itself. So kudos. You know, everything has been done really well in this game. Like I said, and I need to keep reiterating this, I think it's the start of a slippery slope. But this game itself has been really good. Now, a lot of people have bashed the story, which I think is incredibly harsh. I think if you played through the first game and then came into this game, you know what Talion's about. He's not the most charismatic guy. That's not his thing. You know, he's a dead man, you know, effectively. And his story plays on that, you know, fully. I mean, look at him now. The epitome of a dead man, quite frankly. And the story, you know, progresses in a way. I mean, I saw it coming at one point, but you don't really know how it's going. There's new threats, new challenges, and even though it's obviously separated from the official lore of the, you know, Lord of the Rings universe, it does tie some things up that, you know, you think, oh, okay, and it actually challenges how you feel about and think about the story that, you know, Tolkien has wrote. So I don't think it detracts from it. I think as long as you realise it's, you know, a slightly different take on it, then it's really fully enjoyable, and I love the story. And in fact, the ending and everything else makes perfect, not sense, but poetic sense. You know, it's like inevitable fate, and Talion has been sort of tied to that the whole time, I think. And the fact that they brought it around, finished it off properly, finished off with an actual solid conclusion, and, you know, really did, they really, because of your own strife and trials and tribulation throughout the game, it sort of brings it home with to what Talion's going through as well. So for me, that makes the story. There's obviously some missions I'm not that keen on, loads of these stealthy ones, helping out Gondorian soldiers, you know, all that sort of stuff. You know, all that's a bit fillery. You get all these side missions, and some of the characters in that are really good, over the one particular one that I really didn't like. Some of the depictions as well I'm not keen on, but I can look beyond that. It's not, I'm going to use the word egregious again, it's not overly egregious to me in this situation. So that must be the word of the day. I should have a word of the day theme tune and everything, but no, we won't. And I don't really have anything more to say. I think I've pretty much touched on everything I want to talk about in this game. So I've not 100%ed it. I'm on, what, 88%? I haven't done one of the main quest lines, and I haven't completed all the outposts and stuff. But, you know, and I haven't gone and collected all the all the stuff that the game's littered around with you to go and collect. Because, you know, there is a small amount of incentive to do it, but once you start hitting the latter stages, doesn't make too much of a difference. So apart from that, I've loved the Nemesis system from the first game. Went back and played the first game, and I found myself really enjoying that one as well. You know, it plays a bit differently. It feels, I don't know, the first game feels different in its own way as well, which I quite enjoyed going back and playing. So those of you that know the combat and everything the combat's really good, really challenging at times. It forces you to change up how you approach an enemy which I quite like. You know, the same tactic isn't going to work all the time, and you do have to utilise all of your tools. So, you know, it makes you a more versatile player than, oh, I can just use this cheap trick over and over and win. Now, don't get me wrong, some bosses you can use a cheap trick, and in fact, scouting out your enemies and learning what cheap tricks you can use on them is, well, pays dividends. And in fact, a clever player does do that. You know, like doing this and getting the Morgul flies over everybody. The Morgul fly textures, by the way, are a bit crap. Just saying. I think I've just caused havoc in my own camp. But anyway, yeah, such as it is. Yeah, I've nothing more to say. If you guys have got any questions, queries, comments, put them down in the comments below. As far as I'm concerned, this is going to be in my top 5 games, and I suppose if you want to score, a score is going to be really difficult. So it's going to have to be between 8.5 and 9. I would more go towards the 9 out of 10 on that one. It's a definite must buy, especially if you enjoyed the first game, and even if you didn't enjoy the first game but fancy and like some of the ideas that's in this one, that is probably the best way to be. If you looked at the first game and thought, no, I know I missed it, I didn't quite get into it, but you're really into Lord of the Rings, play this one. I guarantee you'll like it. The Nemesis system is incredible, and hopefully we'll get a game where we see, or games where we see that implemented again. We'll see. Anyway, I have spoken for far too long. I'll see you all very soon, guys. Goodbye.